Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Social Media Today, brought to you by Social Cycle. We talk about all things social media, news, tips, tricks, and hacks to help you get the full advantage of social media. I'm your host, Mohit. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Social Media Today, a podcast brought to you by Social Cycle. My name is Mohit. I'm your host, and today we have a very special guest. Chaz, I have a lot to say, but why don't you just introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Mohit, for having me. My name is Chaz Motter. I'm the CEO of Social Cycle. Big enthusiast of social selling and social media sales process.
So the reason why I wanted to have Chaz on today was he was actually the guy who turned me on to social selling before it was a thing. Um, and social selling itself is a very new concept. Would you mind elaborating on what social selling means to you?
Yeah, no, social selling has kind of a negative connotation in a way, right? You think about social selling, it's like you're blasting people in their social inboxes, right? And so, social selling to me is really trying to create meaningful engagement and start building rapport with relevant people on social media that you've identified as people you want to have in your circle. So, social selling is the same as conversational relationship building. You're just doing so in a way that you utilize the medium of social media. There's 4 billion people that have an account. So you can tap into so many relationships that you otherwise wouldn't be able to have.
On social media, so how does one develop relationships on social media? Is it a matter of posting content? Is it responding to DMs?
Yeah.
Is it just doing cold outreach? Like, what's your, I get not solution, but what's social selling been in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and a question I get asked a lot. And the big thing is that as I talked about, building conversational rapport with somebody, it takes a little bit more than just saying something out the gate, right? We've got to, when you see somebody, you can create this halo effect of who you are based on how you communicate, what you're wearing, how you present yourself, where you tap into that conversation. Are you at a coffee shop? So the same kind of thing I relate to social selling is your profile's got to be set up so that you're taken seriously, right? You've got to have a profile picture. You can't be a gray silhouette. You got to tell a little bit about yourself. You got to post something. You can't just have a blank slate. People want to see a little bit about you before they're open to a conversation. And so once you've created that profile, right, then you can start this process of non-transactional engagement, like I call it, or loving your customers. You're leaving unsolicited validation. And so by just engaging and not asking for anything in return and doing so in a human type of way, we view that as a way to start building that relationship where, the light at the end of the tunnel is maybe making a sale, but it's less about the sale. It's more about building rapport with that type of person. And so we think about this long form engagement to get us there.
It seems that my take from this conversation is that social selling has been more of the Gary Vee style approach of you just give value, free value, as opposed to a boiler room type of sales environment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you're giving value, but I think that the big thing we think about with loving your customers, right, or loving your prospects, leaving unsolicited validation. Oftentimes we look at a sales tactic now is, oh, I'm going to give value. I'm going to send them a blog. I'm going to send them this white paper from the company I'm affiliated with. And it starts to kind of become a little stale even then. So we think about this as something where you go after people's self-attributed traits, right? The things that they say about themselves, whether it's their own posts, whether it's their bio, whether it's something that they've engaged on. We're going after that first. And how can you use that as kind of a point to hook in your value proposition as a business, or hook in something that makes it contextually relevant to that person? But it does start with just what are they self-attributing as their own traits, and how can you edify them based on what they're saying about themselves?
AKA, in less fancy words, it's just you got to feed their ego.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Trying to do so in a non-transactional way.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, that's how you make friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
you don't think about that, but yeah.
Like, I mean, how would you describe yourself on social media?
I mean, I try to be somebody that's viewed as an authority in my space. I try to post content that's relevant to, the conversations I want to start with people. I talk a lot about social selling on my LinkedIn. I talk a lot about entrepreneurship and things that I'm passionate about. And, I almost use those things as kind of a magnet to draw people in, or once I've engaged with them, they then see my page and go, okay, this is a contextually relevant comment. It makes sense to me. And now I've landed on this person's page. I'm seeing that they're interested in the things and they're a thought leader in that space. It just gives you so much ammo to have somebody be open to starting a conversation, where instead of screaming on the side of the street corner, you're actually, building yourself up to, have a hit rate when somebody actually decides to be open to having that conversation.
And I'm curious. I mean, I know what platforms you're on, but for people that don't know you, I mean, like, what's been your platform of choice?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you talk about building real B2B sales connections and leaders in that space, LinkedIn is an obvious choice. But I like to kind of spread myself across all these platforms. I mean, with Social Cycle, we're very focused on, it doesn't matter. It's platform agnostic. It's wherever you are social selling. The beauty of the social media channels is that they all have links that attach your profile to a URL link. And we use those URL links the same way you use a phone number or an email address. And so, because of that fact alone, I like to kind of spread myself across Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and really kind of just keep my boots on the ground a little bit, if you will. But, I love these approaches and the way we preach social selling should be done. You can apply that to any type of platform. It just apply the correct engagements on that platform. It's a retweet on Instagram or Twitter. It's an endorsement on LinkedIn, But, I like all of these platforms in terms of social selling. I think that LinkedIn is starting to get a little bit bogged down, if you will.
LinkedIn has become Facebook.
Yeah, so you got to get on the forefront. I like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook are places that aren't super saturated, but if you come correct on LinkedIn, you're going to see a lot of great results.
It's really interesting because I think an underutilized aspect of like social selling at the end of the day is Facebook groups, because you'll have maybe anywhere from hundreds to thousands of people who have this same interest as you, where they're all getting a bunch of value, and it serves as an environment where you can meet like-minded people.
Right.
Do you find yourself active on Facebook groups, or is that something that you've kind of overlooked?
No, I mean, I think it's a high concentration of the distribution, right? And I mean, that's where you try to do it. Whoever said that you have to have 1,000 people in your pipeline to sell somebody something. I mean, you can have one person in your pipeline if it's the right person. So we're not as focused on, hey, you have to have these huge distribution pipes. You just got to find the right people. And that is a huge crutch on Facebook groups, subreddits, places where you can find that high concentration of distribution. And, we advocate that Social Cycle could be used. I mean, guess what connects those profiles together? A link, right? A URL link for a subreddit, a URL link for a Facebook group. So, we look at this as something where, find a high concentration of your prospects, whether it is a group, whether it is an individual, and then leverage that audience to distribute your message in a way that isn't, hey, buy my stuff.
Facebook, I've found actually, Facebook groups, Facebook, like large Facebook messenger threads are great places to actually build your credibility as an authority within that space. I mean, I know that you've taken to Instagram to build your credibility as a social media influencer. I'm trying to slowly get my way to being a thought leader in the real estate space, but Facebook groups have allowed me to meet a lot of people who I've built genuine friendships with. In fact, I was about to invest about $150,000 into a real estate deal with someone that I've never met just through a Facebook group.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, you can really build rapport. And I mean, we think about this in a way where, I mean, you see somebody that may be a high concentration, whether it's your buyer, whether it's somebody you want to collaborate with, but we have the same kind of approach we do when we're in the room together, right? It's like, I don't know that person, so I can't just go up and say something to them, or it's going to be this exhilarating rush to go say hi or give them my business card or whatever it is. It's like we have that same stigma on social media. And I'm trying to kind of break that wall down through Social Cycle, where it's like, hey, you have this person's DM inbox at your fingertips, but it's how you choose to use that. And when you have 4 billion people, you got a couple of shots at it, but you want to make it a little bit less transactional and we should be real with people.
I mean, the way that I think of it is that you only have one shot to make a good impression. You only have one shot to
First impressions are lasting impressions. That's what my mom used to say.
exactly. And honestly, at the end of the day, like you only have one shot. What do you say to people that will maybe ignore your first message, or they might not even look at it? How do you deal with something like that?
That's a great question. And I mean, it's the same thing as a salesperson, right? You think about law of averages a little bit, but the way that we try to give ourselves the best chance to win is, thinking about how can we create these long form sales engagements where it's not follow you and then fire high heat, or send a connection request with a high heat sales message. Like, how can we make that a little bit longer tail where we almost start to pull them back towards us, right? And you think about these social cycle templates or cycle, it's part of our name. It's part of who we are in our DNA, is that it's this long form cadence of engagement that's specific to each platform. So, for instance, on Instagram, if I want to get somebody to answer my DM, I'm not just going to follow them and send them a DM like, hey, schedule a time with me, right? Like, maybe if I send 1,000, maybe I'll get one person to schedule a time, but I'm not trying to send 1,000. I'm trying to send, 10 to the right 10 people. And so, you look at that and go, okay, maybe I'll follow them first. And a couple of days later, I'm going to like something. Maybe a couple of days later, I'm going to comment something personalized. Maybe I'll like something else a few days later. About 7 to 10 days after that, maybe now I'm going to send a message. Now that I've edified them, now they've seen my name come up a few times on their notifications. They've had a chance to land on my page and see what I'm all about. If I've commented a few times, they've probably looked at my page at least once. And so once we've gotten to that point in our relationship from a social selling perspective, now I'm going to have a much higher hit rate when it comes to actually sending that DM, because I've shown that I'm actually caring about and invested into what they're doing. And so that's how we raise our open rates, response rates, and ultimately
connection rates. Yeah. And I mean, like, my take on social selling has been, so in my day job, I have to use LinkedIn a lot. And the way that we're trained at my current company is that we just, like, we'll send an email, we'll call them a few times, and we'll reach out on LinkedIn. Maybe we'll view their profile. But it seems, I mean, this is just my perspective. It's not reflective of my employer. I have to say that to be a legal disclaimer. Of course. But I don't think that it is super effective at actually giving value. I mean, a lot of these sales experts nowadays, they are all saying the same thing about, hey, show relevant content. That's great. I mean, I can send a white paper, a blog, or whatever, but at the end of the day, I mean, like, there's only so much time and there's only so much content. I doubt like a CMO is going to really want to read like a 300-page word or a white paper.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have a saying at Social Cycle that posting content is not enough. Posting content's obviously important. It builds your trust in the eyes of your prospects when they land on your page and see what you're all about. But posting content isn't enough. I mean, we think about just on Instagram alone, you've got over 100 million posts going up a day. You've got 250 million stories going up a day, and you have a finite amount of space on someone's news feed that you're even going to show up. I mean, your organic reach, if you have 500 followers, 500 people aren't seeing your post. Maybe half or less than that is going to see your post. And so posting content isn't enough. That may give you some credibility when someone lands on your page. We look at your page, it's kind of like your website, but it's got to be more than that. And it's got to take some personalization and some edifying. It's got to be about them. And posting content about you and then saying, hey, look at this content, doesn't give you that edge on this is about them. This is leaving unsolicited validation.
It's selfish. Exactly. In a way. Everyone loves to talk about themselves, but frankly, unless you're someone that has like a high authoritative figure, why is I'm not saying you in general, but like, why is you, like the royal you, so important?
Yeah.
And like, social selling, for people that don't know, I think that it's when marketing and sales intersect. And then social selling doesn't need to be about selling. I think that the whole social selling name should be reframed to social engagement.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, and engagement is kind of a fluff word in my opinion, where people are like, oh, engage. But frankly, it's make genuine connections. Like, how do you do this?
Right. Well, you have to be intentional is the biggest thing, right? Like, you have to be intentional in how you're engaging with someone.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you can't you have to also optimize your profile as well,
Yeah.
because like when Instagram came out, I think it was in like 2010, 2011. I joined the platform in 2012 on my personal one. And I mean, if you scroll back, like a lot of my posts are not about, it's about, oh, maybe I made lemon bars one day. Maybe I took a photo with my car, like a photo of like a dandelion or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just the way that I set up my profile wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
So, I mean, given that you have spent quite a bit of time on your Instagram page, what has stuck out to you when you're reaching out to people, and how do you know if someone's engaged, and how do you tell what niche they're in?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, this is partially why we built this product, right? It's how can we not necessarily profile someone, but how can we find points of parity with people that we want to build rapport with? And, when you think about the intention side of it, you've got to be intentional about doing something with these people, and who are these people that you're wanting to build a relationship with. And so, a lot of what we've built with Social Cycle is, how do you find the right person? How do you come up with a sequence of engagement that is intentional, that's a little longer tail, that feeds you, what you're supposed to do? A lot of people ask us, not necessarily, what am I doing? Report to me what I'm doing. It's, what am I supposed to be doing? And so it's almost like we have to change our behavior as it relates to social media. We have to get out of the scrolling trap. We have to get out of the post something every 5 minutes trap, and think about, how can we leverage our time a little bit more strategically, and a little bit less transactionally as it relates to what we're trying to get across and who we're trying to get in front of. And so when I started doing that with my page and DMing people the fifth step and not the first step, and posting content less but engaging more and making it more about other people, that's when I started to see these really strong connections starting to come in. And that's when I started to realize, like, oh, we're really onto something here. And that's something we're very proud of, is how can we change people's behavior for the better as it relates to social.
And what makes you an authoritative figure? I mean, like, not to stroke your own ego, but why should people listen to you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've run a marketing agency that's focused on social media growth and engagement for a little over 3 years. And during that time, we've sent over 200,000 messages. We've gained over 1.5 million followers for our customers, and worked with over 300 different brands and personal brands and businesses. And, so we've had a lot of time to see what these numbers are really saying and experiment. And so, between that and now spending over a year developing this product and building a SaaS business out of, this managed service, I think it's given us a lot of great insight that we probably wouldn't have gone on this path without. It's seeing the problems people are trying to solve, and seeing that most social media software companies are there to help you manage your already existing engagement. It's help a social media manager for Nike to be able to respond to all the comments, or to respond to the DMs that are relevant. It's not necessarily about how do you create a community, how do you do outbound engagement. And a lot of these people, a lot of these small business owners, and maybe some of the people listening, they're not as worried about, how do I stay on top of responding to all these comments I'm getting? It's more
they're trying to get more comments.
Yeah, give me comments, give me more followers, give me more paying customers, really. And so it's like, this is the process to, essentially apply our enterprise sales process that's worked for 100+ years to social media in a way that's just conversational, intentional, well thought out. It's not tomorrow do this and then fire a DM off. Like, it's really, how can we be more intentional and do it in a way that's genuine?
I mean, I feel like it's not even just selling too. It's just, once again, like, I can't harp on this fact enough. It's about creating genuine connections.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, like, if you go into a business and then you say, hey, I want to create a bunch of social media pages. Yeah. You might have the foresight to say, hey, I want to make $1 million in sales off of social media, but you don't know. When I started the Mo Money Mohit Twitter handle, I think a year ago almost, just to have a professional Twitter account. Since then, I've met a lot of friends this way that may invest with me in the future in real estate. I've met a lot of people who feed me deal flow, people that I'm going to collaborate with, people should go into social media with no expectations, and I feel like that's a very big flaw.
It's not about followers anymore.
It's not
about
organic
how many
reach too has just died. I mean, Facebook. So I have a page with 650,000 Facebook followers, which we built organically, and we have, I think, several videos with over millions of views. What does that mean? It means nothing, because at the end of the day, like my page, I think the last one I checked, it only reached like 3 or 4% of my audience.
Yeah. Well, and you're seeing that it's very consistent across channels. That's where we say posting content isn't quite enough. It's it takes a lot more than that. And we think about this in a way where you almost have this kind of trifecta when it comes to social media, right? You have to have your page set up properly, right? You've got to make sure that, we talk about 9 times the response rate on people that have a profile picture and an about section on LinkedIn specifically. So it's like you need to have a page that's set up in quality and establish your point of difference as somebody that is a thought leader. Right. Yeah, exactly. So you have that. That's one quadrant. And then you have your content that you're putting out there, right? And that's something that oftentimes people spend more than 50% of their bandwidth on, if not more than 75% of their bandwidth on. And, we want to kind of not say don't ever post content anymore, but you want to make sure that you leave enough time between optimizing your page and posting content to also be able to do that engagement. And oftentimes we see that it's diagnosed as just that: engage on social. It's not who to engage with. It's not what to say. It's not how many times to say it. It's just engage. And so Social Cycle is really about helping make that third quadrant more robust in a place where notoriously it's so long and challenging to engage. You don't know who to do, what to, and it's like we want to help you to spend less time doing that step, because oftentimes it's the most tedious step, and give you more time to have some bandwidth to do content, give you more time to optimize your page, but also make sure that you're staying intentional, you're staying consistent with your outreach, and doing so in a way where you can actually create outbound sales processes using social media as a tool, just like email, just like phone calling. This is the modern day cold call here. And so how can you come correct so that they actually answer your cold call at the end of the sequence? And it comes down to non-transactional selling and leaving unsolicited validation and, just being a human being on social media.
I do agree. Definitely, like, sales once again has evolved. I do think that a lot of people are, when they're trying to figure out what to post or like what sort of comment, you probably have expert domain knowledge on one thing. Just drop a little
your
bit.
Buyer, maybe.
Yeah, not even your buyer, but your friends. The people that are in similar industries, and if there's something that you can't just keep quiet about, then that's probably the niche that you want to enter.
Yeah, touche.
And the internet has allowed people to find, quote, their corner of the internet. I'm 25 I'm on TikTok, which it's people's corner of the internet. You can have like cute dances, you can have very visual styles of information coming through, but people have tend to congregated around that. And frankly, my opinion is that the direction of the internet is changing so that it's a lot more privatized. And you can see by like what we call, is it shadow messaging, rogue messaging? I think I'm butchering that, but it's basically or dark social, actually. Dark social. Yeah. So basically where like you'll post something, they're like your followers may send that along.
Virality.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they'll send it to you. It's super hard to track, but at the end of the day, that message is being shared with a ton of people who are in your same niche, which it's expanding your connections by 1 degree.
Well, I think, especially to that 1 degree point, I'd say that the other side of it is, there's so many people out there. You're 1 DM away, right? You're 1 DM away. And if you can personalize it, these different social media platforms allow you such a high degree of personalization when it comes down to, I can send a voice memo. I can send a video of myself to somebody.
Send a photo as well.
I can send a photo. I can send a GIF. I can send just a DM straight up. I can do 20 different types of engagements across every platform. And so it's like you have so much opportunity to personalize how you build a relationship with somebody online. And you can build a relationship with anybody. Like I said, 4 billion people, like you can build a relationship with anybody. And, you don't realize that you're only one DM away. It just has to be a personalized DM. It can't be, hey, buy my stuff, Mr. Podcast guest or podcast host that I've been listening to the podcast for a few years. Like, you come with a voice DM after you've engaged on their content for a month. Now they're going to probably have a little more time for you. They're going to notice your name. They're going to say, hey, this name's been coming up and leaving validation on my post, leaving comments on my post. So you're one DM away, I think, is the big thing.
Yeah, and like people need to actually take the initiative and DM. I mean, even if it's just simple as like, hey, like this is a personal anecdote, but I mean, there was a CEO of a content site who I had looked up to. Mm-hmm. Basically one of the fathers of, quote, Facebook clickbait, unquote.
Yeah.
And he ended up following me on Twitter. And then I was like, yo, like, what is this? This is very new to me. Mm-hmm. And then I just sent him a DM saying, hey, like, I've been a fan of yours for a while. I would love to connect. Thanks for the follow. That's it. Just leave it at that. I sent it with no expectation. And we ended up having a huge conversation about real estate and like what he invests. Yeah. And it's just over social media.
You would never know who is going to answer. And, I can't remember. I think it's a Michael Jordan quote, basketball quote, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? And, I think that we have this degree of separation to virtually over half the planet on social media. It's at our fingertips. And, I just think that not enough people are grabbing the bull by the horns and going, hey, I could get in contact with any of these people. This is the yellow pages of people. And, we don't use social media in that way. We use it in other ways. We pay for people's attention where you don't have to pay for this attention. You just have to be intentional.
Free, I mean, you may have to pay for ads.
Opportunity cost.
I mean, you may have to pay for ads if you want like a brand exposure, but you can also reach out to people who have similar interests to you. And I mean, I hate to use the word cult-like following, but you get to develop like a tribe, I guess, is a more friendly way of describing that, mm-hmm. but you get to establish a following.
Right.
And those, I mean, once again, you're just 1 degree away.
Well, yeah. And so you think about the other side of this too. We talk about this a lot. I mean, I'm not somebody that's anti-ads. I think I've grown up using advertising. I've
leveraged children of the internet.
I've spent $1 million on advertising over the course of my career. But, I truly think that, especially for people that don't have another option. It's like, I can't pay a marketing agency $2,000 a month to do this. I don't have $2,000 a month to pay for anything to do this.
The power of
trying to grow my business, right? How can you do that? Well, you start by getting a hit list of people and going through some engagement, building rapport, starting conversations, and you have that at your fingertips. It's free.
And I mean, we're almost at time here.
Yeah.
But I would have to say that like a lot of there was this old quote. I think you have 5 degrees of separation between everybody.
5 or 6 degrees.
Either 5. Yeah, I think it's 6 degrees.
Yeah.
But now I feel like that has reduced down to 2 or 3.
All your common connections.
Exactly, because you could just name drop those. Yep. And in addition, social media has provided triggers for you to reach out. For example, right. I mean, if someone posts a story, Instagram has made it so easy to put a fire emoji. I've slid into girls' DMs because of that.
It's absolutely true.
And it's another, I mean, like people are trying to, like Dan Bilzerian, he'll try and sell his lifestyle. And if you're a real estate investor, you try and sell a lifestyle. Everyone tries to sell a lifestyle, but when you get them into DMs, and that's when they become very genuine and very real. And I feel like the not fakeness, but the superficialness of Instagram goes down.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's one of those things too, where you want to think about how you condition somebody. You don't have to send them a DM every other day and you have 100 people on your list. You keep DMing all of them until they answer. This is something where, think about how you can condition them. Liking something is going to give you a notification just like anything else. And so, trying to sprinkle in liking with commenting or DMing so that you're not just DMing all day and it takes you 5 times as long. I mean, think about how can you condition somebody into enough credit that you've built up to where you can send them a DM and they're going to answer. And I think that's the trick to the game. And, there's people that are pretty good at it, but oftentimes, we see a lot of high heat out the gate and not a lot of genuine interaction, unfortunately. Cool. Trying to change that.
Cool, Chaz. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. If there are 3 things that you want to have the audience take away, what would those be?
Yeah, I mean, talked about a lot today, obviously. First thing I'd say is when it comes to engagement, love your prospects, leave unsolicited validation, just edify them. The second thing I'd say is, we can apply enterprise sales tactics, email tactics to our social media engagement. Just create longer form engagements that are less transactional and, again, more just about edifying your prospect. And the final thing I'd say is you guys are one DM away. We talk about, I think you've made a great point, but probably less than 6 degrees now with the amount of social media penetration that there is. And so you're one DM away from changing your life.
And where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, check me out. I'm on pretty much every platform. Chaz Van de Motter, Chaz Van de Motter. And yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, all over the place. Check out Social Cycle, obviously, socialcycle.io.
Yeah, and then I'll put the socials in the links. When people go to your page, what can they expect?
You can expect to find somebody that is got a whatever it takes mentality and is just trying to make some amazing things happen in the social media realm. So, if that sounds like somebody that you want to be associated with, I want to be associated with you too.
Cool. Thank you, Chaz. Appreciate you for coming on. Thank you for listening. This is Mohit. I'm signing off. Please rate us 5 out of 5 stars on wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Stitcher, whatever it is. Thank you, and I hope that you have a great day. Please sign up for the beta at socialcycle.io.